Welcome back, everyone. Today, I've got 11 football matches lined up with my models over 1.5 and over 2.5 goals picks. I'll go from the lowest value up to the biggest edge, and for each game, I'll tell you whether over 2.5 is worth the extra risk or if we should just stay safe on over 1.5. Remember, this is not financial advice. It's just my own research. Always gamble responsibly, and let's jump straight into the first game. First up in the Bundesliga, Werder Bremen versus VfB Stuttgart. My model gives 85% chance we see at least 2 goals here, which lines up almost perfectly with the bookie's price of 1.18. So it's a very small value spot on over 1.5, but it still fits the 90% style strike rate strategy. Over 2.5 lands around 63% of the time in the model, but the odds at 1.57 don't quite pay enough. So I'm personally skipping over 2.5 and just treating over 1.5 goals as a low-margin safety leg for combos. Next, we go to Belgium. Genk versus Westerlo. Genk are usually one of the most attacking sides in the Pro League, and Westerlo's defense is far from solid, so goals are normally on the menu. My model has 90% probability for over 1.5, with fair odds around 1.11 and the market giving 1.15, so there is a small but real value gap there. Over 2.5 hits about 72% of the time in the model versus odds of 1.5, which is actually better value than the 1.5 line. If you want a bit more juice, over 2.5 is perfectly playable here. Still in Belgium, Dender versus Club Brugge. Brugge are huge favorites and usually push games into high-tempo, high-chance territory. Over 1.5 comes in at 90% on my numbers, fair odds around 1.11, while the bookies are offering 1.18, so there's a solid little edge for the safer line. Over 2.5 sits at 68% with odds 1.57, fair price about 1.47. Again, a nice value gap, but with more variance. I like over 1.5 as the core bet and over 2.5 as the aggressive option. On to Brentford versus Leeds, and this one screams goals. Both sides like to press and attack, which usually opens the game up. The model puts over 1.5 at 83%, fair odds around 1.20, and we're getting 1.30, so that's already pretty good value for a safer leg. But the real value is on over 2.5, about 64% to land with odds 1.92, making it one of the better plus money spots on the card. I'd still list over 1.5 as the official pick, but over 2.5 is very much live. Now to Scotland, St Mirren versus Celtic. Celtic games in domestic cups are almost always tilted towards attack, and St Mirren can chip in as well. My model gives 90% chance of at least 2 goals, fair odds around 1.11, while the market sits at 1.22, so there's a nice edge on over 0.5 as the safe play. Over 2.5 comes in at 65% with odds of 1.65, still a positive value bet, but a bit more volatile. I'm recommending over 1.5 as the main angle, with over 2.5 as an optional step up. La Liga next, Alavés versus Real Madrid. Madrid usually dominate the ball and create a lot of chances, and even if Alavés sit deep, they can still contribute on counters. The model has over 1.5 landing 86% of the time, fair odds around 1.16, while the market gives 1.26, so we've got a clear value gap there. Over 2.5 sits at 63% with odds 1.79, which is an even better value edge, but obviously more dependent on Madrid converting their chances. Safe bet over 1.5, value chaser bet over 2.5. In Austria, we've got Red Bull Salzburg versus Wolfsberger AC. Salzburg are almost always involved in attacking, open games, especially at home. My model gives 89% for over 1.5 with fair odds around 1.12, and the book's offering 1.22, so this is a nice cushion for the conservative play. Over 2.5 is where it gets spicy. 71% chance and odds of 1.68. Fair price about 1.41. That's a big value edge if you're comfortable with a bit more variance. I'd still structure the video as over 1.5 main bet, over 2.5 upgrade. Back to England for Nottingham Forest versus Tottenham. Spurs under their current philosophy play very front foot football, and Forest games at home tend to get hectic with plenty of chances. Over 1.5 is 84% in the model with fair odds around 1.19. So the market's 1.32 looks like strong value already. Over 2.5 is even juicier, 62% chance and odds of 1.98, so you're getting a big edge if this turns into the end-to-end game it often can. Again, main play, over 1.5, but over 2.5 is very attractive. Into another Bundesliga clash, Freiburg versus Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund are traditionally very strong going forward, but can be leaky at the back, which usually boosts goal counts. The model gives 89% probability for over 1.5 and a fair line at about 1.12, while we're seeing 1.26, so there's a healthy value gap on the safer goals angle. Over 2.5 is at 59% with odds 1.79, only a small edge there. So I still prefer over 1.5 as the main recommendation, and treat over 2.5 as a light sprinkle if you like higher odds. Now the big derby, Sunderland versus Newcastle, a really emotional fixture whenever these two meet. Newcastle come in with the stronger squad and a very attacking style, while derbies usually crank the intensity up. My model has over 1.5 hitting 87% of the time, fair odds around 1.15, and the bookies are at 1.33, giving us a very solid edge. Over 2.5 is 61%, with odds of 2.00, again offering a big value margin if this turns into the end-to-end derby we expect. Safe route over 1.5, braver route over 2.5. And finally, the top value game on today's card, Sevilla versus Real Oviedo in Spain. Sevilla should dominate at home against lower-tier opposition, and cup ties like this often open up once the first goal goes in. Over 1.5 comes out at 85% on my model, fair odds around 1.8, but the books are hanging 1.41. That's a huge value gap for a goals-based pick. Over 2.5 is even crazier, 60% chance with odds 2.25, fair price closer to 1.67, so if Sevilla really show up, this can absolutely clear 3 goals. I'd still present over 1.5 as the official high hit rate prediction, with over 2.5 as the big value, higher risk option. Alright, those were 11 matches ranked from lowest to highest value on the over 1.5 goals line, plus some spicy over 2.5 options when the numbers were in our favor. Let me know in the comments which ones you're riding with, and if you want this style every day with hit rate percentages and value gaps. As always, never bet more than you can afford to lose, manage your bankroll, and treat this as entertainment and analysis, not guaranteed profit. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one with more football predictions. Peace.